And we're live. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is the Awaken Alive podcast. I'm your host, Mark Smith. With me today is our guest, Anthony Zalewski, FitMed Pro. He's been a nurse for quite a while now. He works in the healthcare profession. We're excited to have him on board. Real quick, before we jump to him, we want to announce that we have formally merged with my awesome content on unconventional training. We have authors right from all over. Great magazines. So make sure you guys head out to the website and check out how to subscribe to the magazine, either digital or print copy. Some other updates we've done to the website. If you haven't been there in a while, we've given it a little bit of a facelift. That's pretty cool. Enough about that. Let's get Anthony on the line here. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Glad to be here. I'm pumped.
Yeah, man. So listen, let's get a little bit introduction of yourself. Tell us how you found Awaken Alive and how you found style.
All right. Well, yeah, as you were talking about, I'm a nurse. I've been in healthcare for about 20 years, just about. Been a nurse for just about 14. Been fitness for, my entire life, basically. I grew up, I was the youngest of 6 kids, 3 older brothers, got beat up, played tackle football. I was probably the football sometimes too, just playing around. So at a real young age, just kind of appreciated sports and fitness, with my brothers and my dad was always very kind of one of these guys that really pushed for us to be involved, which was great. And then I just kind of, tried a little bit of everything. Growing up, I was involved in all kinds of sports. And then, when I started going to high school and stuff and really started to figure out that there was a gym, I think I did the curls for the girls and all that stuff. Didn't really care about the squat rack unless I was curling in the squat rack and stuff for a while. So coincidentally realized.
The curl rack?
Yeah, that's right. Coincidentally, I had some knee issues for a while because I didn't take care of my legs, but learned it a little later on than I probably should have about the importance of just kind of full body training and those kind of things. But back when I was, I'm 42, so I'm a little bit older. But when I was going to high school and stuff, it was the Lee Labradas and the all those guys, that bodybuilders were huge, and it was just, the market was just so saturated with that everybody wanted to get jacked and get huge. So that's all we did. And then kind of grew up a little bit, got through, started doing college, kind of came into nursing a little bit later. I was just about 30 when I was in nursing. So, but always tried everything a little bit different in fitness. So, I've tried, CrossFit stuff, calisthenics, just about anything that there was out there, because the one thing that I always loved was learning new stuff, and especially when it came to fitness and being active. So kind of got into nursing, and that opened the door for doing some traveling. Did travel nursing for a while, worked out in California for about 5 years. Really got a lot of a sense of a different culture out there, and the fitness culture that out in California. I lived near Venice Beach, so got to see that part, but opened my eyes to a lot of different things, martial arts and stuff like that. Some of that, never really got too much into any of that, that I, accelerated into it, but learned a little bit of everything, some jujitsu and Krav Maga and stuff just to learn. So I did that travel for a while, and, most of my time working as a nurse has been in the emergency department. And then was a flight nurse for a few years, so that was really cool. And while I was doing the flight nursing job, my boss at the time, he was, he knew that I was really into working out, and we had a bunch of guys that were really into fitness. So we started talking about, how we can improve, because one of the problems with, flight nurses are a lot of idle time. So actually, while I was working at that job, with my boss, actually set up a wellness program for us, and it started incorporating nutrition and diet and wellness stuff, different modes of exercise and whatever I could, and learned a lot more about it. And in the midst of all that, just really started to figure out that this was something that I liked to do that was kind of outside of nursing. Was one of my other focuses, was learning about different stuff and kind of collecting that knowledge and kind of helping share it with other people. And so I think that's kind of where the website was born, the Fit Med Pro website. It's fitness for medical professionals. So it's something that's a collection of just a lot of content that I find really interesting, and then I want to share with other people, especially in the medical field. So that's where that got started. And at some point in between there, I actually, because I do like writing, I got into, I wrote and self-published a novel, just a fictional one, but that was something cool. So kind of where I'm at now with learning is where I'm trying to combine a lot of my my interests. So with writing and exercise, fitness, and stuff like that. So and then as far as the functional and the unconventional fitness, I think part of that came from just doing as I do, where I'm just looking for something else to challenge me and kind of through just looking at different things, got introduced to My Mad Methods, Mark DeGrasse, and through him I met you just because of the Facebook stuff, and a lot of these guys, Anthony Eisenhower's, and some of these other guys that I really have gotten to respect, from watching what they do, learning from them, and kind of talking to them, even if it's just over Facebook. So that is one thing that I think is really, that I've learned to really incorporate more into my lifestyle and training, just especially because I'm older and how my life changes. With being a nurse, working 12-hour shifts like I used to do, you really got to figure out how to prioritize your time, especially when you're working, like 12 hours and you're working 11 to 11 and stuff like that, where, you get off work and by the time you get off, you can't work out. So you got to figure out how to do it. And now that I'm a family man, I got 2 kids, so I got to figure out where to fit it in there. But, recently, just in the past, since past November, I took a new position where I actually work a Monday through Friday job, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So at first it was great to figure out, hey, this is great. I'll be home every night. I'll be home every weekend. But then there were new challenges as far as what my job was going to be, and how was I going to fit my fitness, which was a huge part. How was I going to fit that in? So that's kind of still where I'm trying to figure it out. But that also made me.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get in, elaborate on that a little bit more. I want to, before we move too far past it. When you were talking about the writing and the fitness, which is awesome, because that's how I ended up where I'm at now, combining the two passions. But more than that, is that you speak about. It's so great. We talk about it almost show. Somebody brings up something about how they got connected to this person or that person. It's just wonderful that we live in a world where through our social media and through was a magazine that was a few years ago, Mark DeGrasse's My Mad Methods, that we've all come together and created this community of to share. MadFit magazine is the 2.0 version of that now, and it's really cool to, when I hear a story like yours. I was reading it, was into fitness, and now you've been able to take stuff that you've learned in there, your own business here, this Fit Med Pro, and apply some of the stuff you learned from all these other great coaches all over the world. I just think it's so fantastic that we have, and the access that we have to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I was listening to the very first Awaken Live podcast where you were speaking, and it's a lot of what you were saying, how you came up, and it's like, man, this is going to be my story too. But it does ring true about how you, especially with social media. I mean, it is what it is sometimes, and you can take it for what it is. But I would have never had the opportunity to meet you or a lot of these guys that I've had the chance to contact through social media, to really learn a lot of stuff that I'm learning and network that way. And it builds me up as a person, for my own, lifestyle. But it also, when I want to try to elaborate on that more and spread that out to the people for what the site that I do for FitMed Pro is, it helps me because I really feel like if I got a question, there's like I got a reference of people that I could just send emails to, and I'll get people. That's the neat thing about the community you're talking about is people are just so willing to offer up, advice and experience that they've had and stuff like that. And it's like, I never felt intimidated to ask questions, and I never felt like this is something that I shouldn't be doing. I mean, you see some of these guys, and they seem like they're larger than life when they're doing, the videos and stuff on social media. But to just sit there and talk to them, it's great.
Yeah, I would say that having all these coaches that are approachable, he is the appealing of the industry of this community. But I also think it's a little bit different. I mean, when I first started out working at a gym, there's and I was just this young new kid, right? And I'd see these trainers, they're all jacked and stuff, and lifted crazy amount of weight, and I didn't even know who to ask. Like, I didn't even know who to ask for help. And if I did, I just sort of got looked at like, why are you asking me a question? And I never got that like warm, open door, kind of like the teacher you have in school that their doors are always open. You can go to their office and ask them a question, like a lot of these coaches are that we're talking about in this unconventional world. It's like, sure, yeah, this is why I was doing this and how I was doing this and the reasons it'll help me see goals. Great example. We had Bud Jeffries on the show last fall, and look at the stuff this guy does. It's unbelievable. Like, I watched this video today. He was doing a slow one-handed push-up, 10 seconds down, 10 seconds up. I can't do 10 seconds down, 10 seconds up right now. I can go work on it. I'll probably get that. Approachable human beings I've ever met. But it just goes to sort of emphasize your example that you can pick these coaches' brains. It's not even a bother for them. They're so happy and enthusiastic to share. And I think that's really what's special about what's going on right now in today's fitness culture, is that there's this willingness to share information. Like, oh, hey, let me hide my information and not share it.
Yeah, and actually, I have a good example of that too. When I used to work out, one of the gyms I used to work out here was it was a big time gym. One of the guys he's a promoter and really into bodybuilding. He's done shows and stuff like that. And one day when I was kind of contemplating if I wanted to get into personal training, I mean, I just walked up and I was like, hey, I got a question I want to ask real quick. If you got a minute, just to ask you about some personal training stuff. And deadpan looked at me. He's like, I'm busy. And I'm like, all right, cool. That's fine. And I walk away and I turn around. And the guy's just reading the newspaper, and he read the newspaper for 15 more minutes. And I was like, I mean, I don't know if you feel like I'm a threat to you because I'm just asking you a question or whatever. But I mean, I think that lifestyle versus, this functional and unconventional, where people are just like, they're so excited about what they learn that they just want to spread the word and get other people to try it. So it's so much of a different atmosphere, and it's so cool to be able to learn it that way.
Yeah, and it really is just like tribe almost of it. And everybody's so different too. Man, there's an amazing amounts of differences. And what's that? Is that beeping coming in on your end, Anthony?
That's my fault. I'm trying to shut that off. Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, it's just this. Like you said, it's almost like a big tribe, man. Like, everybody's in it. We're all in it with the same objective, and that is to help other people and to help ourselves get better at being better. Better movers, better lifters, stronger, more resilient, more injury-proof, healthier heart and lungs, all together. It doesn't matter. Everybody's willing to share the ideas to help us get that way. Pretty cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So listen, we had you recently write a killer article. Kudos for that. Very good. We loved it. It got shared a lot on the issue, and this is gonna be our main topic of conversation. Here 20 years. My mom's been in healthcare she's a physical therapist, I think 39 years maybe. She's got to be coming up on 40 years in the healthcare profession. I know lots of friends that I went to school with. They went on to nursing school. I have friends that are doctors now. And then, of course, I see the paramedics. I go to the doctor. I see the doctors. It's this white elephant in our societal room. Healthcare professions. We see the doctor that smokes a cigarette, has bad skin. Nurses, lots of nurses smoke. I don't get that one. We see these 300, 400-pound paramedics. I mean, just how do you even get in and out of the vehicle? They're answering the call to people that are having heart failure, strokes, people that are dying from obesity, diabetes-related illnesses, all these things, and it's just this giant mirror that they refuse to look in. So let's have you take it away from here. We're going to get into it. I'm not afraid to hurt anybody's feelings on this show or this program with this topic. I do think it's one of those topics that some people, I'm sure there are a lot of excuses. You laid them all out for us in your article. We'll have you talk about them on the show. But I want to see these healthcare people change and do better, and I know you do as well.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what one of my main motivations is for what I do with the site and stuff is I coming up that I have in healthcare. It's one of the things that I just couldn't understand is you have these people who day in and day out see how not taking care of yourself affects your health, how smoking or eating poorly or lack of activity. I mean, how we take care of people every day who are just in the worst shape, and yet you come in and you're eating crappy food. You're going on smoke breaks every hour. You're sitting down on your butt when when there's a chance to be moving around, and and it's not all on purpose. Not every nurse is unhealthy. Not every nurse wants to comes to work with an unhealthy attitude. Some of it is that the stress of the job, and that's one of the big things is stress and nursing kind of go hand in hand. Dealing with the stress is one of the ways that is you can deal with it healthy or you can deal with it unhealthy. And there's a lot of people who are unhealthy in how they cope with the stress, and in that they overindulge in crappy food. They we're bringing food, which I can never. This is one of my biggest pet peeves is when I walk into work and there's a table there for people to eat and it's full of crap, and it's cookies and cake and and donuts and just really crappy food, when this is the time, this is the opportunity. You're locked in this place for 12 hours, and the one thing that you should be able to kind of control out of this day, out of the chaos of your job, is what you put in your body. And people are choosing the easy way out because it's fast. It's what the food, I need it to come now because I got to stand up, I got to eat. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but there's a lot of things that I wanted to try to see nurses change. Having a better attitude about taking care of yourselves, because I can't understand why people do that when they're at work and they're I mean, it's so hypocritical for someone to come and tell somebody who has emphysema or COPD or one of these things, and they're like, you need to quit smoking, and then 5 minutes later they're out in front of the hospital and they're puffing away on a cigarette. So
I agree.
There are definitely,
I agree 100%.
Yeah, there are definitely hypocritical people.
Smoking has always been the most mind-boggling habit that I see healthcare professionals do. That just drives me insane. The eating thing, I understand a little bit. Look, you're moving. I got time to swing by the break room on my way to do this next, to see this next patient or something like that. You out from the patients, so you have to go outside and do it. I don't know. It's literally the most unhealthy thing. But before I keep going this rant, you said it was so very important. You said you want to change the attitude in healthcare, view their health. You didn't want to change their health. You need to change their attitude. It's a mindset is what you're trying to change. And I think that is what is critically important is it they think about it differently. Not, oh, I need to be healthy because I need to be healthy. The mentality and the why and the heart of the issue, you'll never get anywhere. So that was really, really well put by you. I wanted to highlight it, make sure people listen to our show caught the attitude of the way you look at health?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot that goes with, again, there's certain things that you can control when you walk into a hospital. There's certain things as a nurse that you have any kind of control over, and a lot of it is yourself. When you walk in, all bets are off on what you're going to see in a course of a 12-hour day. So being able to kind of modify how your environment or your day goes a long way to that, and that's some of the things that I try to help people with. If I don't ever try to pretend to be the pillar of health. I try to live a pretty healthy lifestyle, but I'm guilty of doing some of the things that other people do, but I also know my limits, and I know how to, to set those limits on myself. But I try to help people if they ask about, where can I improve? And, if it's cutting out those unhealthy behaviors, cutting out how you deal with the stress, trying to get and be more active outside of work. There's a lot of things that people can do, and nurses, and it's not just nurses too. I mean, there's paramedics, there's doctors, like you were saying, these people who are supposed to be trying to help the sick and set an example, and they're setting the wrong example is a problem. So.
Well, and I'm Mike, our business partner and producer of the show. Really well the other day. His GP, the guy's that got like terrible skin. He's overweight, and he's like trying to give Mike advice on, health. And it's like you look at a guy like that, and you're like, why would I listen to you? I feel like that's kind of one of those sort of negative feedback cycles. I'm not going to listen to you to get healthier because you're not healthy. And then I'm going to come back in here 6 months later and you're going to tell me the same thing. I'm just going to keep doing it. But you're going to keep, and both parties are continually to get unhealthy, more out of shape, both the healthcare professional and the patient. Neither one of them are taking, the doctor or the nurse isn't taking their health serious, and therefore the patient isn't taking the advice being given seriously.
Yeah, and like it is, it's that hypocritical, that's being a hypocrite and not being able to say, if I walk into a room and I tell somebody, and I'm a healthy individual telling somebody something, maybe they will, maybe they won't listen to what I'm having to say. But when you have someone who isn't practicing kind of what they're preaching, then you're definitely not going to get the kind of respect or the attention that the patient wants. I mean, they're there to begin with. They most often know that they're unhealthy. They know that, I don't know why this thing is beeping. I apologize for it.
Makes the show exciting. Our listeners getting ideas and having epiphanies. As our listeners are listening, literal dinging epiphanies. That is what that noise is.
But going back to the point, I think it's just one of those things where, you really have to try to practice what you preach. And as a nurse, that's what I try to do. And I try to incorporate my practice outside of work and bring that in too. And that's, trying to be, if I can be an example, and, encouraging other people I work with to kind of take more responsibility too. I mean, part of healthcare, and part that we don't really put a lot of emphasis on is, or you're afraid to, is giving having the patients be a little bit more, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, be responsible for their own, a lot of times people get themselves into the binds that they're doing because of the fact that they're not taking care of themselves. Well, nurses are just the same. You guys, people walk in and they're not taking care of themselves, and so they come to work and they're tired and their back hurts and whatever, and it's like, you gotta think of it that way too, about, are you taking responsibility for yourself as well? And then it's just how try to make it work out that way, where you're again, it's just practicing what you're preaching. I think that's the big thing that I know sometimes I might come off with some people as being on my high horse about what I do, and it's like, oh yeah, here's Anthony's, all he ever talks about is working out. It's like, but I mean, it's not all I care about, but it's a big part of my life, and it's why I feel the way I do, and why I am healthy as I am, because I try to take care of myself. And if anybody asks me questions, I'll give as much advice as I can to help them as well.
So, speaking of advice, like what? I mean, what? We've obviously got problems. We've got they're tired. We've got the stress of the job. We've got convenience of unhealthy foods. Always more convenient than the um, healthy food. For the sake of argument, I'll just say it like that.
Right.
I mean, what do we do? What does a guy like you do? FitMed Pro do as a business to actually get habits established, and what are the habits?
So, and especially in the article, we alluded to the three things that are kind of what are three big issues. So number one, and we've kind of gone back and forth on it, stress, and you can only control what you can control. As far as, like I said, you don't know what's going to walk in the door. So that being said, you got to kind of figure out how to cope with certain things, I think, and dealing with stress, not bringing it to work with you, not bringing your baggage to work, understanding that not every day is going to be the greatest day of your life. So kind of having a healthy attitude, and I recently have come into appreciating things like yoga and some meditation and stuff like that, and how that can actually help with me and dealing with stuff. And I mean, I have a great home life. I mean, I have two great kids. My wife is great. I love being at home with my family. So I'm not escaping that when I go to work. From a perspective of nutrition, I think planning is a big part of it. Actually coming in and telling people, if you sit down and if you have a job where you're going to be off for a few days, take the days that you have off and cook in bulk, make a bunch of different food and portion it out, and make sure you pay attention to the portions, but have the food prepared so that you can bring it to work and you can eat healthy, so that you're not jumping in on when everyone's going to get the fast food, or you're not running downstairs and grab whatever's quick. I mean, yeah, it might not make it so that you can eat faster, because a lot of times that's a big problem with nurses is you have to grab your bite and run out, but you'll be less tempted to grab the quick stuff, which most likely is the unhealthy stuff. And then, physical activity, had a couple of people, go back and forth on exercise and stuff and trying to fit that in. But I think the big part that with nurses is that a lot of them they're not smart about how they approach the job, and taking care of themselves while they're at work, really being smart about how they lift and how they carry, and using the extra the assistance that we can get from like lift assist and stuff like that. So a lot of it is just really understanding, what your resources are, and being able to count on that kind of stuff, and using the team approach and is a big thing. I mean, there's patients out there that are, like you said, there's 300-400 pound patients that you got to deal with. So, nobody's expecting you to walk in there and move that patient by yourself. Don't be stupid. Be smart and play it ahead.
Let me ask you this on diet and nutrition with healthcare professionals. Get your thoughts on it.
Sure.
I don't know how familiar you are with intermittent fasting, but both Mike and I are real big fans of it. A few other people I keep close contact with, but we had Ori on the show a while back, the author of the Warrior Diet. I don't know if you've read the book or podcast. You can go back and check it out. It was episode 17. But don't you think something like intermittent fasting would be a sort of approach to nutrition for nurses? Like, man, you don't even have to worry about eating for, so just eliminate that altogether. Then you've got and then you eat that, right? Just sort of, if you could get them into that habit, and we already know so many of the benefits of intermittent fasting.
Yeah, I think a lot of nurses, without even trying, are actually doing intermittent fasting, like
Sure.
just because of the fact that they're showing up and they don't know when they're going to eat. But
That's called not eating. There's a difference.
yeah, but yeah, I think the point of that is, is in the planning and stuff, and having that knowledge and putting that effort into learning that is part of it. And that's kind of where I'm a big champion of with people is, do your homework, do some research, find out what you need to do. I mean, I can be very critical of healthcare in general because I feel like I've earned that right having worked in the field for as long as I have, where, we don't teach nurses, doctors. I mean, there's no nutrition education for them really that teaches people how to eat well for themselves, let alone how to teach their patients how to eat. And
you're
they
not
learn
going
all
to
this
get
stuff secondhand.
from a doctor and them say like, "Hey, cut
Right.
salt out" or something.
Yeah, I mean, you
Stupid
have
like
to
that.
really try to find specialty and specialists, and some of them are kind of popping up, but again, it just goes back to they're unhealthy themselves. But I mean, that's part of the problem is healthcare in general is it's reactive. It's not proactive. It's not telling people, hey, you got to do this so you're not sick. It's when you get sick, this is what you need to do. And I think the culture of, especially in like unconventional fitness and a lot of the stuff that's coming out now is being where it's like you take care of yourself now, you put in the effort now, and you don't have to deal with all those unhealthy things down the road. And it's something that I think more people need to be aware of, especially it's so self-empowering to just wake up in the morning and not feel like crap. And to know through your day, you can walk up a flight of stairs without being, out of breath or sweating buckets or anything like that, because you're actually putting in a little bit of time and effort to prevent those kind of problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a fitness professional, all right. So it's weird. You would think that we should be on the same team, right? Yeah, healthcare professionals and fitness professionals, but really, professionals always got to be considered the front line, like the proactive, as you say, versus the reactive, as I think it was a great way you put it there. But I can't tell you how many times I'll have a client go to a doctor. It's not that I'm disagreeing with the doctor or arguing with them. It's just that, like, if we didn't worry about having to do this, and we did this instead, and then you wouldn't even have to worry about going to the doctor. Like, does that make sense? Like, I feel like it's this constant battle almost. Is like, you see me once a week or twice a week here, and it's this thing. I'm trying to phrase it without mouth or without like pissing on the intelligence of doctors, because they're very smart people, and if you're truly sick, definitely go to a doctor.
Sure.
If you need a surgical procedure, definitely go to a doctor. Doctors are amazing and has totally changed the world. Like, none of us would be here without Western medicine. We'd all have been sick and died by now anyway. So I'm not, certainly not pissing on any of that. It's the sort of day-to-day advice is like, like I said, just cut salt out, or they do some blanket thing, or like, hey, I had a doctor tell one of my clients they weren't eating enough carbs. I'm like the bottom of the food pyramid. I was like, are you white bread and white grain in their diet? It's sort of these examples are the ones that I'm talking about. That's constant. I had a doctor tell my patient that they shouldn't squat whatsoever, just eliminate it altogether because they have a slight left knee. Why not just work on the valgus collapse instead of eliminating an entire movement pattern? The doctor tells somebody that they should never do the deadlift again because it might hurt their back.
And there's actually research out now that's saying deadlift is actually really good for a lot of the problems that they've actually debunked a lot of that. They've proven that deadlifts have a lot more positive effects than negative, and I think it's the knowledge of you don't I wouldn't expect to walk into a gym and talk to a trainer and say, you know, I have, let me try to think of something that would be really appropriate. So I'm having chest pain and it's radiating into my left arm and stuff like that. And, you know, for any just competent trainer, I wouldn't walk in and expect them to tell me that or give me advice. Most of them would say, go see a doctor. So why would I go to a doctor and say, doc, I need help with trying to figure out these things about my fitness? Because most of them are just they're going to put it in a context of what they know, which is medicine. And
Right.
unfortunately, and again, I'm not blanket statementing this, but this is true, that there are a lot of doctors who their answer to this is, here's a prescription. You got pain, I'll give you some narc. Here's your blood pressure is too high. Let's give you a prescription to get your cholesterol down. Let's give you this pill. You know, and it's that pill for every ill mentality that unfortunately, and some of it is maybe they're getting paid for the deal, or some of it is it's just easy to do. And some of it is that people aren't taking enough responsibility for saying, hey, maybe I should just not be doing some of these things that are causing these problems instead of running to the doctor every time this problem happens. So there's a lot of
Well, I've been sitting here waiting for that topic to come up. I patiently was waiting for prescription for everything. Let's just give them a pill. Huge problem, issue, absolute epidemic right now. And where I live, Wilmington, North Carolina, is the highest heroin city. We're not even that big a city. Highest rate of heroin usage and deaths. Now, part of that is they start to trace it back to the painkillers, which that's the first step for a lot of people to get on heroin.
Yep.
My question is, why are we basically writing people into in many ways writing them into an early death? Because why not do something that would change rather than just mask a symptom? Okay, right? So if you're having back pain, well, maybe you need to just work out a little bit. Maybe you need to not sit on just a small disc issue, and it's something that would actually solve itself if you lost 30 pounds, eating more, and maybe did some light goblet squats to sort of open up that sacroiliac joint if that's where the issue is, or just give some decompression in the lumbar spine. All these sort of things that you could do out of words of strength type Tim Anders type stuff, getting on the floor, rolling around a little bit, crawling a little bit, this stuff. I have people all the time coming with back pain. I've yet to see a patient who didn't have back pain during the process of working with them, or when I began working with them. I've been able to sort out a handful of sessions, if not one or two, depending on the nature of the pain, how severe it was. A guy, I've talked to about him on the show before. Really messed up situation where they fused his back together, his spine, as a 16-year-old, then again as a 19-year-old. It looks like the inside of a robot looking at the X-ray. Since September, the guy can do stuff now that he couldn't do. And it's simple stuff. It's not going to blow anybody away, but like grass at his house to even finish the job. He would be in bed or on the couch for the next 3 days and have subsequent migraines as a result of the effort. That stuff anymore. All we've been doing is some light movement stuff. Your back can get some nourishment here. So it's this sort of, let's just write a prescription, blood pressure. Why not just add a little bit extra cardio in there? You know, these things, they have solutions. You know, I've gone to the doctor just for a wellness checkup. I've been once in the last 5 years or something like that, asking me if I need a prescription for something. And they just asked that question, like, do you need a prescription for something? I was like, well, no. Like, but what if my answer was yes? You would just write me something?
Probably would.
You know? And so it's very frustrating. I think that a big issue there from the outsider's perspective is and I'm not going to get into the like conspiracy theory about big pharma owns everything or pay. I'm not going to get into that, but I think that a real tangible issue is the amount of time that doctors have with a patient. So, for instance, if you've got an office and your hours are from let's say 8 in the morning to 5, right? You've got 40 people you've got to see that day. But you can't really sit down with them and go alternative approaches that will help you overcome this situation or increase your health in this area without the prescription. You know what I mean? Because that might take him 5 to 7 minutes, but it's 5 to 7 minutes times 40.
Right.
So I do think that's an issue. I think that offices might be understaffed. Maybe there's you have a room that's off to the side, and maybe there's a PA or somebody in there that, or maybe even a wellness coach of some sort. They sit down and just 5 to 10 minutes of just counseling. Like, you give them the tools, now they got to go use them. But again, it's not necessarily just here's a prescription right away. It's a thought. And that seems to be the actual issue, is that the doctors don't have time to explain.
Well, yeah, I think there's
some other methods.
There's a few different points that you brought up that one, I think you're correct. I think that doctors are they're overwhelmed with the amount of patients. There's less doctors, less nurses. I mean, healthcare in general, there's more sick people. The baby boomers are getting sick. There's all these kind of issues where there's just more demand. I think it is true that it's easier in most cases to just write a prescription instead of sometimes being able to kind of dig a little bit deeper and figure out some other issues. It's, you got a headache, here you go. I think that you have to have the right mindset of patient, though, too, where, some people who are coming to see you, they obviously have taken some responsibility for trying to take care of themselves. So they're going to listen and be a little bit more proactive and a little bit more regimented about trying to fix the problems, because they're already in that mindset of, I want to take care of myself. A lot of people, being an ER nurse for 14 years, the people I see, not all, again, I'm not blanket statement and everything, but a lot of the people I see, they're not coming in to be, they're coming in for the quick fix. And I'm not just saying drugs is a quick fix. I'm just saying that they want, at that point, at time that you see them, all they want you to do is just take care of whatever the problem is. They don't need to have any kind of, while you go home, do this, because most of them don't care. They're going to go back and do whatever they wanted, what we're doing before, but right now fix what the problem is. And there's another part of it that could be a whole different discussion for a whole different day that has nothing to do with fitness, and that's just about how hospitals and people are compensated for money, and this whole process of patient satisfaction, where it turns into, if I'm not happy with my stay because you didn't give me the drugs I wanted, or you didn't whatever, I'm not going to give you the rating that you need to get all your money. So hospitals really are refiguring how they are catering to patients in a certain way, and what their mindset is of what care is. It's client based now instead of patient based, and a lot of times. But that's a whole different conversation. But it does factor in. I think there's a lot of things that go into how we treat the sick, and how the sick actually, what they're coming in with, thinking, I just want you to fix me. I don't care. I want it done now, and I want it. This is our society nowadays. Everything is right now. So.
Yeah, it's a microwave society. We've had this conversation with thousands of people. It's this instant gratification that nobody really understands the value and even appreciates putting in work on something to see an end result that has been earned, not just given and rewarded. It's, like you said, it's quick fix, it's instant gratification. Our foods like that. Our news is like that. You got to just pull up on social media and stuff's right there. thing. Even shopping. Go on Amazon, order it. Amazon probably be there next day. Really go through a store to store to store to look for something. That's an example that I think really made that example a generation and a half from now. They wouldn't even know what we were talking about.
Right.
And I mean, but same thing with like you said with healthcare. It's what's this? Let me go to a doctor. Here's the quick fix. But there are people out there that want to really make a legitimate change in their life. They want to turn their situation around. They want to lose weight. They want to move better. They want to be stronger. They want a more vibrant, full of life existence. And I think that those people will find us. They'll find guys like you. They'll find like Awake and Alive. And these people are going to be moving forward. So I know those people are out there. We see them every day, and we're excited when they show up. But hopefully that this enthusiasm can be contagious, and other people will catch it to a better life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how being healthy can't be something that everybody would want to strive for. When you just see someone walking around who it doesn't have pain, doesn't have a lot of these issues, and how that can't be a contagious thing, like you're saying, and I think it's something where people like you guys and this whole community that there is are changing it, especially because it's not relegated to the gym anymore. It's not just, hey, come to the gym and work out, because that can be very intimidating. And I know from working with nurses, that's a very intimidating thing, but where now fitness can be so much more of a spontaneous thing, just movement in general. Just run outside and run your backyard, climb trees, climb whatever you want to do, and things like that is so prevalent right now in this fitness community that we're a part of, where it's like, you don't need to have a gym membership. You don't need to buy all this equipment. You don't need to spend hours, slaving in a gym to really reap the benefits of what this is about. I mean, this is like, you look at even guys like Rafe Kelly, and I know that's one of the guys that you were talking about too, where just watching that dude climb trees makes me want to go climb trees. And watching Hunter, and I can't, I just,
Cook.
Hunter Cook. No, his Hunter Fitness. But watching his videos of him doing some of this stuff, and I just sit there and I'm like, my God, if I could just do that. And all right, let me try it. And I'm going to look like an idiot, but I'm going to try it because I'm not there yet. But it's a goal for me to try. And I think that there's so much more.
If you get a chance, make sure you listen to the Rafe Kelly podcast. It's unbelievable.
Well, and hey, let's not leave out the Mark Smiths of the world who, post these videos of this just carrying around this oddly shaped stuff that no one would even think about, and doing those kind of things where it's like, I want to try that now. I mean, it legitimately makes you want to do that stuff. And that's the cool part about like what this community is now, is it's really inspiring to people to say, hey, let's try this, and what's the bad thing that's going to happen? You're going to be healthier.
And I actually remember you first reaching out to me nearly a year ago this time, maybe a year and some change, about 13 months ago, reaching out to me via Facebook, and then we got on the phone, my brain, and it really was exactly what you said. It's, you don't need a gym, you just need to be free, and is it jump on that swing set and do some pull-ups there, or like climb up the slide, or go climb this tree, or hang from this tree, or swing from this tree, or carry that big rock. And it's all there if we just let ourselves childlike status of curiosity and wanting to try things simply because they're there, and moving for the sake of movement because play is good for you.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the guys that one of the nurses that I used to work with, we were talking, and I posted something about where I did like yoga and I did some movement training. And he's like, what's that entail? And I was like, look, think of all the things that you would probably yell at a kid for doing in the living room, and go do that stuff. Just climb.
Yeah, that's a great way of saying it.
Roll around and jump and just, and don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to look stupid and whatever the consequences are. But I mean, you're going to get an incredible workout. You're going to learn more about yourself and what your abilities are that you didn't give yourself credit for. And I think it's going to really teach you to try to do more and push yourself a little bit more, and not be afraid to push yourself and take some chances and be a little bit like, hey, I got to do this.
One thing that a lot of clients and people that come to my workshops and stuff always say is that they say, to do something that I never thought I could do. Deeply satisfying as that is to hear it, it's the reality is it's something that I knew they could do. I didn't get them to do something that do. It's that block on the brain of like, well, play is for kids, blah 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 blah. You know, we're told not to jump, we're told not to run, all this stuff since like we're 5 all the way through high school. You know, all this stuff. It's just a person can make just 4 feet. Now that might seem like a long distance for a lot of people when jumping from like, you know, a rock to another rock. And it's not on a flat, smooth floor. It's with just about anybody's a 4-foot broad jump. It looks really big to them. And so in their head, when they say something I never thought I could do, it's because they're on about taking the blinders off and getting people to do stuff that they basically already can do. You're just showing them that they can do it, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I think that a good coach, and knowing this from just experience myself, is I think good coaches a lot of times aren't going to make people do things that are inhumanly impossible or like you said, that they couldn't do. It's they know how to bring that out of the people they're working with. They know how to get them to do those things. I mean, that's a mark of a good coach, I really think, is how to make people do what they naturally could do anyway, but just in their head had some kind of limiter or block in their head that said they couldn't do it.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, listen, buddy, we're out of time here, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up because I do think that's a great stopping point. Listen, real quick, tell everybody where they can find you on social media and on your website. Yourself.
Yeah, so we're on Facebook. It's FitMedPro, and then the website is www.fitness4medpros.com. We're on there. There's just all kinds of content on there, not just for nurses. I mean, it's for everybody. So if people are interested, and we're always hoping to add more content, add some videos and some stuff this that are coming out soon that we want to try to do, and looking for anybody who has ideas for us as well. So yeah, so that's where you can find me.
Sure, man. We'll make sure that we get this podcast up there too, since you're covering a lot of stuff you guys talk about. Man, great conversation today. Really enjoyed that. I'm glad we got into some touchy subjects in our society, but I'm glad we talked about it. I'm glad that the guts to bring it up and actually discuss a little bit, and not only that, but try to provide some solutions, because it doesn't do anything to talk about an issue if you can't viable solutions. So again, Anthony, thank you so much for being on our show and being our guest today. Where you're at and probably where I'm at too. So we'll slide out here, and until next time, buddy, thanks.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.